Welkom bij de leiderschapspodcast van City Life Church. Dit is Leadership Talks.
Hallo iedereen, welkom bij een andere leadership podcast, Leadership Talks. Elke vierde dinsdag van de maand krijg je een interview wat ik doe met een van de leiders, vaak een spreker of iemand die bij ons in de buurt is geweest. En zit ik aan de tafel om te praten over leiderschap en vragen te stellen. And we're going to switch into English again because our pastor, our guest today is from the UK and he is in a transition. We will talk about that soon. So welcome, Dan Watson.
Thank you very much.
This is your second time on our leadership podcast.
Second time, there's so much gold that I've got to give.
That's right. So I invited you again. Yeah, so Dan Watson, you've worked for Hillsong 10 years in London, youth pastor, campus pastor of the main campus, 2,200 seats, Dominion Theatre in the city of London. And now you're on a transition.
Transition?
A little bit. Tell us just a little bit. What's happening in your life?
A lot is happening, Pastor Erald. So we've been at Hillsong for 10 years and did the young adults, did youth, oversaw the Central London campus and the surrounding London campuses as well. Mm-hmm. And then we just felt that our time was coming to a natural end there, but we didn't know what's next. And, I had a prophecy over me. I went to go and see a pastor, one of the pastors who's one of our friends. He gave us a prophecy and we was like, well, okay. And we kept that. Yeah. And then I think I woke up in one day in May and I was like, okay, now it's time. Yeah. So I had the conversations and then, so then we're finishing up and then we're going to be moving across the ocean to America for a season working with Passion Church, Pastor Louis and Shelley Giglio and the team there. And it's very exciting.
Yeah. You've been working with Pastor Gary for 10 years in London.
Legend.
A legend, huh?
Yeah.
And now you're going to go to a big church, Louis Giglio in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So before we zoom in, we want to talk a little bit because your new role, that's why we're going to zoom in a little bit. Your new role will be in Atlanta?
Yeah, so my new role is going to be one of the leadership pastors and the leadership coach to the team there. You
will coach the team of Pastor Louis Giglio.
Yeah.
That's a big job.
It's a huge job.
So we're going to zoom in a little bit on coaching leaders. And,
great.
But because we also love dearly Pastor Gary from London, give us one. He built one of the biggest churches in Europe. Mm-hmm. One of his strengths. You know him very well because you've worked with him. You were in his team for 10 years.
Gary is a genius. So I'm trying to think of one strength. I have a lot of admiration for Pastor Gary. So I think one of Gary's strengths is he was confident enough to be himself. So he never had to try and be like any other leader that is around. He could be himself. And when you see what he built, when you look at Gary and then you look at what he built, you think, how does this match up? Because he's not this big dynamic leader, preacher, but he is himself and he's deep with his leadership and he genuinely cares for God and genuinely cares for people. Yeah. And he's confident enough to be himself and develop others around him. Yeah. And so therefore we have the church that we have in the UK because he's able to do that.
What helped you a lot to develop under his leadership? One of his qualities, I mean.
He was empowering. Yeah. And so he wasn't controlling. And so he would give me this, all right, I want you to, when I became the youth pastor, I was the young adults pastor and I became the youth pastor. He said, I want you to build a youth ministry that impacts society, not just builds in church. That was it. That was it. So
that was your job description.
That was my job description. We didn't have any more conversations about youth and young adults ministry after that. But he empowered me to go out and build that. And that's exactly what we did. And that's why, our youth and young adults ministry was doing what it was doing because he did that.
Yeah. You said yesterday we had a little conversation at the beach in The Hague. You said
Beautiful beach.
Yeah, surprising, eh?
I didn't know. It's a secret gem. It's
Yeah,
great.
11 kilometers. Did you know 11 kilometers of beach? But anyway, in The Hague. And you said
Fun fact.
You said he works with filters when he gathers the team together. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So filters. The great thing about filters is they enable you as a leader to think. So you got to think. You don't just get told what to do. There's some things you will get told, this is what we do, this is why we do it, do it. But then if you're going to grow and develop as a leader, you need to be able to think for yourself and grow your own mental capacity.
Yeah.
And so he gave filters in such as, instead of having to ask questions, you would ask yourself, does this take away from Sunday? So if I want to do something Saturday night as the youth pastor, young adults pastor, is it going to take away from our Sunday service? Because our Sunday service is the goal.
Yeah.
Is this going to build people? Does this honor Jesus? Is this developing people? Is this pointing people towards Jesus? And so me as a leader, I never had to keep having conversations with Gary about, can I do this? Or can't I do this? Or this.
Yeah.
I would have heard what he said. And now, before I even ask him or think about it even more, I go, does this honor Jesus?
Yeah.
Does this add or take away from our Sunday service? Does this develop people? Is this helping grow our church, or is this helping grow? So I would, all of those questions would be through filters. Yeah. And sometimes he wouldn't give filters. He wouldn't go, here's my 10 filters. As a follower, as one of the young leaders in the church, I would have to have my ears open to just listen to what he says. So he could be doing a leadership session, he could be just talking. And my thing is, I always want to learn.
Yeah.
And so I'm hearing what you're saying. And so I'm getting filters by what you've said. You haven't necessarily told me the filters, but if you said, as this is my mission, as the church, we're trying to get everybody on the same page to do this or this, and you didn't say that was a filter, but now I've heard it. And so I go, okay, part of my mission is to build that mission. Yeah. How do I get everybody on the same page? Because that's what you want to try and build. And so now when I'm making decisions, that's my filter. Yeah. Makes sense?
You were leaning into his picture.
100%.
If it's important to him, it's important to you. That's what we heard sometimes. Try to not the to-do list, but the heart.
Yeah.
What we want to reach together.
100%.
And within that framework, there's a lot that you could do. You had a lot of freedom.
A lot of freedom.
Within that.
And even in your mentality, I think there's a two-way thing there. I am sitting under your leadership. And so really, whatever you say goes. If I'm choosing to sit under your leadership in this house, then I have to submit to the authority. I have to submit to leadership. That's honor. And if I don't want to do that, then I don't fight it. I would go somewhere else, right? Yeah. But if I'm choosing, okay, this is the house, and I believe that leaders are appointed by God. All right, God, if you've appointed that person, whether they're good or bad, I need to submit to it still. And so I submit. But then also, if that leader is then going, I want to empower you, then there has to be a level of empowerment, not control. Yeah. And so you go, I'm going to believe in you. So Gary go, I believe in you as a leader, so I'm going to empower you. I'm not going to control you. I'm going to empower you to be able to, because there's a reason I've put you there. And so as the young leader, I've also got to manage this beautiful tension of I'm following where you're going, but I'm also realizing you've empowered me to use my brain and to think and build something off my own doing as well. You understand? And so there's that two-way relationship that goes on there. There's a fellowship and an empowerment that is beautiful if you get it right.
What's the thin line between the controlling and the empowering style of leadership or communication? It's a thin line, right?
It's a very thin line. And I think it comes down to understanding. The controlling is we're going to do it my way or the highway because I think I'm right and that's it. The empowering is, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to take on what you're saying, and we're going to think about it. Yeah. And then ultimately we're going to decide what we're doing or where we're going. Control and dictatorship, it's a thin line, but it's two very different things. Yeah.
You know, the leadership in itself is not easy, but leadership in church environment is even a bit more complicated, I think, because you have those two things. You want to be family. We are brothers and sisters, all that, and we love each other. And we don't want to hurt anyone and understand everyone. And still, but you also have a plan and a structure and a vision. That tension between somebody said in a company, they don't have that tension that much. The company has a goal, your job has a goal, and that's very clear.
Yeah.
If you have trouble with your uncle, well, that's not, that's your business. That in church we have to understand all that. You understand the tension. How do you have any thoughts on how to? It won't be solved. It's a tension to be managed. But
it's a tension to be managed. Absolutely. And I think, man, like it's a tension to be managed. You got to have. You got that family, and then if someone has a disagreement at work, and as a leader you can say, all right, you're not performing here, you're out. They'll leave and they'll find another company and they'll go and do another job. Here, it's, you're leading, you're doing stuff, but this is a church family and, we love each other and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But we're also on a mission.
Yeah.
There is a missional thing to what we do and why we do it. And that's why we have leadership and organizational structure. And so it's not just an organization, it is the church.
Yeah.
And we've got to make sure it stays the church, not an organization or an empire or anything like that. It is the church, the people of God gathering together. And there's leaders there who are to shepherd and lead people onto a mission. And so I think within the house, we got to be able to go, if I'm leading you, it's leading you towards the mission. People can't argue with the mission. Mm-hmm. It's when people, leaders go, well, this is my preference. This is what I want. This is what, and it's got nothing to do with Jesus. It's got nothing to do with the word of God. It's got nothing to do with reaching people. It's all to do with the preference of that leader. Yeah. That's when I go, that's wrong, right? Yeah. And that's where people should stand up and whatever. Yeah. But then we've got this thing where you go, okay, no, this is missional. And so in family, how do we get over disagreements in family? We argue, we fight, we disagree, but we still have to come together because we're family. And then we eventually work it out and we get over it. Yeah. And that's what you got to do in the house. Yeah.
We have to learn to do that. Eh?
We must learn to have healthy conflict. Yeah. Conflict doesn't mean that you now need to leave.
Some people will swallow, love everyone, peace.
If we do that, we're pretending.
Yeah.
If we
inside something
we're pretending because and I love the Bible. The Bible says if you got a problem with someone, go up to that person and sort out your problem. And that comes maturity in Christ, right? And we must, leaders, followers, whoever, we are all followers of Jesus and brothers and sisters in Christ. Yeah. So we all, no matter where you find yourself, if I'm the senior pastor and one of the congregation, even the young people got some, they should be able to walk in and say, hey, Pastor Dan, this is, and I should humble myself enough to be able to listen and hear and apologize, even if I didn't know, whatever it is. It's got to be family. We must be, the son must be able to come to the father. Yeah. Father must be able to go to the son. Like we must be able to have that flow of communication to grow.
Yeah. If you were there moments in these last 10 years that you and your leader, you needed help? Did you sometimes call somebody else in or a coach, or can you help us in this?
No, me and Gary are perfect. No, I'm joking.
Close to perfect.
No, I think I would always get outside wisdom. Yeah. 100%. I think, that's wise, to get external counsel that isn't emotionally tied into something. Yeah. So they can give a different perspective. Yeah. And that all help me see where I'm going wrong.
Your blind spots.
My blind spots. And so we must have people that can speak into our lives.
Yeah.
You know, one of the big things, and even our decision is, I went to someone for lunch last year and said, hey, man, like this is what's going on in me and this and da-da-da-da. And we sat and we talked and he helped me see just some things. Yeah. So we do. And so I think we've got to have a commitment to the commitment. Yeah. So I had a commitment to the relationship of me and Gary. And so even if we disagreed, my commitment was to the commitment. Yeah. Not to on our agreements or disagreements. Yeah. It was to the commitment. And then we also developed a relationship enough where we could question and back and forth a little bit because there was a trust there that we can question, but he knew that I wasn't ever trying to overrule him or overpower or step out of my lane. There was a trust. And so he knew if I was questioning something, it was coming from a right heart because I wanted to achieve the mission just as much as him.
That's a big thing, trust.
Trust is huge, but you must allow trust. Trust can only ever be broken. And so if you don't trust someone, it can't be broken.
It grows slowly, right?
Yes.
But it needs only a few things to break it.
Yeah, and it gets broken very quickly, and then it takes a long time to build it again. And so never devalue the trust that someone puts in you. Even if they give you something that's like everything that I've ever had in terms of my leadership, from being in charge of like a bump team, in terms of like a setup team, or a small connect group, or large connect groups, or the whole UK youth ministry, young adult ministry, or, anything. That comes with someone's trusted me with something that is not mine, something that is theirs. Yeah. I may be holding it right now, but it's not mine. Like if I give you this in your hand, take that, you're holding it. It's not yours. It's mine. You can use it. You can call people. You can text people. You can put up on the Instagram, whatever you want, but it still belongs to me. I've just entrusted it to you. Yeah. And at any point, someone can take it away again. Right? Yeah. And so we must realize that everything that we're given, every little bit of responsibility, whether it's seen or unseen, someone has entrusted us with something that is theirs.
Beautiful.
And we've got to look after that. We have the Bible calls it like stewardship. Yeah. We must steward it really well.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, you go to Atlanta, a big church. How big is that church? How many?
This church is maybe like 20,000.
20,000.
Yeah, and then the conference is huge.
And your role is quite a special role. You're going to be coaching the key leaders, right?
Yeah, the leadership team.
Like 25 people, you said. So I want to hear you talk a few moments on the art of coaching.
Great.
Can you give us a few thoughts here?
The art
there must be a reason they picked you to do this. It's a big job. It's
a pretty big deal, Erald. No, I don't know why I got the job. I don't know why. It's crazy. But the art of coaching is about asking good questions and genuinely wanting to help that person move forward. Coaching is not about you as the coach. I think that's the beauty, like, in this, is that sometimes in leadership, like, you can make it about yourself. Yeah. Right? But this art of coaching it's about, how do I make you better? Yeah. How do I develop you? How do I help you move from stage 1 to stage 2? And you got to ask good questions. Yeah. And to ask good questions, you got to be a great listener. Yeah. And a great observer. And we talked about before, I love watching people. Like I could sit all day and just watch people. And I think, without making too much judgment on someone, I think I could tell you about someone quite a bit after watching them just for a little bit of time. And so it's very, very interesting. And so, my role is going to be there to ask great questions that is going to cause people to think and to reflect, and then to evaluate and plan and how they move forward and what they need to do, and maybe pick out a few blind spots or help people strengthen on what they're good at.
Yeah. It's big.
Yeah.
Do you have like a toolbox with you with good questions, or a list on your phone with questions?
No, it's all up here.
All up there. We have.
I have a folder at home that's got a whole bunch of things, and there's different practices you can do, but ultimately you want to know what it is, the subject of what someone needs to develop in or talk about.
What's the subject? Yeah,
what the subject is.
What do you want to talk about? Yeah.
What do you want to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to get to at the end of this conversation?
Yeah.
What are your goals?
Yeah.
And then as we do that, in your talk, I'll be observing who you are and how your best work in movements. I'll be looking at your body language. What does that say? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Remember yesterday we were doing a pretend session.
Oh, I liked it.
It was good. And you said a word.
We had a half an hour coaching with. You coached me half an hour.
Coached you for half an hour, and you said a word, and you kind of laughed when you said it. That says a lot. And so people's body language, their tone, all of that says a lot. So I'll ask, tell me more about that laugh. And then you'd reflect. And
what is happening?
You'll think about it because I laugh because of this and this. And then we get to the deep roots of some things.
Yeah.
And my job is just to take you there and then bring you back out of it with some answers or results. Yeah. And my job is not to give you the answers. My job is to lead you to the answer by you coming up with the answers yourself.
Yeah. You started with the question, what do you want to talk about? Yeah. And I didn't know you were doing the coaching thing on the spot. It was at the beach in a restaurant. But anyway, but you it surprised myself. I really had to think about, what is it that I want to talk about right now? Yeah.
Because often the issue isn't the issue.
There is so much in your head then spinning around. Yeah, what's the exact subject now?
Yeah, often the issue isn't the issue. So sometimes someone could say, I want to talk about this. And then we would get halfway through or nearly towards the end and it's gone completely different because that's not what they actually wanted to talk about. That was a result of what they wanted to talk about.
The issue is not the issue many times.
Many times.
There is something deeper. Yeah. More emotional maybe?
Emotional. So like a lot of stuff, even within leadership, and if we're all honest, like there's a lot of people deal with insecurities. Yeah. And so they're trying to deal with the strength of somebody else on their team and the insecurity of them, how they feel against that. And so I go, okay, so tell me about that. Oh, you mentioned that person a lot of times. Tell me more about that. Yeah. And we'd dive into that. And now we go, okay, the issue is not even that person. The issue is, where did that insecurity develop from? Yeah. And how do we eradicate that? Yeah. Or put in some mechanisms to help you identify it and deal with it so that you can keep growing and moving forward. Otherwise, you're going to stay in this stagnated place. So we just... Yeah. It
was good. We have to close. Time is almost gone. So it surprised me that I really had to think about, what is it that I want to talk about? And then you were working with me, so to speak, and so the question came a few times, how does that make you feel? What is happening inside? It helps to understand, what is happening actually. Yeah. And go a bit deeper. So I believe that, we need people like that in our lives to grow and develop and help us find our blind spots.
100%.
That the typical thing about blind spots is you don't see them yourself. Not so long ago, I had a talk with somebody, a leader. I said, there might be a blind spot here. No. I said, well, the thing is, you don't know. That's why it's called a blind spot. Somebody else sees it. Many others see it maybe. But you probably don't see it. That's why you say no. But let me try to help discover.
Yeah, and the blind spots is like, it takes effort for us to see it. Yeah. So if you're driving...
And honesty.
You got to check your blind spot. That means you got to turn. You must turn. Yeah. And most of us, when we're driving, we don't turn like that. We don't check the blind spot like that. We have a quick glance. Yeah. Okay, we're good. Yeah. And so we can see it. It just takes effort. Yeah. And we got to be prepared and want to take the effort. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. It was a great conversation.
Beautiful.
All the blessings when you go in a few weeks' time. You hope to move really to Atlanta from the UK to the United States.
Amazing.
Well, God bless you and your family. And thank you for being with us this weekend in your crazy season. You took time to be here with us. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Hey, we hopen elkaar gauw weer te zien. Elke vierde dinsdag van de maand, zoals je weet, een nieuwe episode. Dat kan je luisteren of kijken wat je wil. Elke keer een gast hier die leiderschap doet en daar veel kijk op hebt. Als je het leuk vindt, laat het ons weten. Deel het met vrienden en geniet er lekker van. En wat mij betreft, tot de volgende keer.